Hello, everyone, and welcome into Bad for Baseball, the baddest baseball podcast on the internet, presented by Betway. My name is Nicholas Playlog, joined alongside by my co-host, Adam Peddle. We got some exciting updates about Juan Soto once again, or honestly, scary updates depending on who you are and what your job is in a team's organization, because anybody that's got to do with the payroll, they are sweating right now hearing what we just heard about Juan Soto and about his free agency. So we're going to talk about that and how all of that situation is kind of developing and heating up and where it's looking like he is going to end up today. As well as that, folks, there's a bunch of other free agents here. Some of them are really good. Some of them are going to win you ball games in 2025 and 2026 and beyond. And some of them, they're going to bust. We got 9 right here that are not looking too hot. An article here by Bleacher Report that we're going to break down, talk a little bit about them. And then as well, some trade rumors surrounding former Rookie of the Year, Jonathan India, and just a bunch more in general, man. So let's kick things off just immediately by first establishing how absolutely shit and terrible the Chicago Bears are. For those of you that know, I'm a big football fan, and I just watched my Green Bay Packers destroy the Chicago Bears in dominant fashion the entire 60 minutes. It was like had them exactly where we wanted them. So that was really, really good. They got a bunch of free agents in the offseason thinking that it would turn their team around.
Right. And
it didn't do it.
Well, they also got a rookie quarterback that never played in the NFL, and everyone thought he was going to be better than Patrick Mahomes.
There you go.
How do you justify that? It's a different sport. I hate when people tell me, especially who watch college football. I'm not a big college guy either, but I know there's a drastic difference in skill level between college and the NFL. And people always say, "Oh yeah, because he was good in college, he'll immediately be good in the NFL." Sure, he's got the potential, but you got to make an adjustment like everybody else. And same with the MLB, you got to make an adjustment like everybody else. Like
yeah. I just had to bring that up because it is Victory Monday right now, and whenever it's Bears week, like you gotta rub that one in and twist the knife just a little bit. But let's get to the main event in this show right now, everybody, and discuss what's transpiring with Juan Soto. Obviously, you had last week all of the different teams going into LA. You had Boston, you had Toronto, you had the Mets, the Yankees. I think the Dodgers were there too, potentially a couple other mystery teams as well. They were all meeting with Juan Soto last week, kind of the initial meeting in LA. And you heard some stuff about Toronto. You heard some stuff about Boston specifically being like, well, he was impressed. He was impressed by what it was that they did. I think that he's probably impressed with what the New York Mets are doing too, man. The offer has been revealed, and it is big.
I mean, we always knew the Mets' strength was going to be how much money they were going to splash around for Juan Soto, with Steve Cohen and everything. And the number being reported is $660 million. That was the initial offer when they met with him on Saturday. If that's the initial offer, because we knew they were going to come out like guns blazing out of the gate, but 660, people thought we're going to dance in that low 600 mark. That was going to be initial offer. Then we're going to tack it on. Steve Cohen isn't messing around. He wants his guy, and he's willing to outbid. Dude, 660 knocks half the teams that were meeting with him this last week out of the market.
You got to imagine. So now I want to be clear here, folks. This could be all wrong. This is reported by Carlos Baerga, who has definitely got some stuff right before, but you never know, right? Unless he was actually in that room, it's tough to say. But I wouldn't be shocked because it's Steve Cohen and because it's Juan Soto and because that he wants this guy so damn bad, and he's hearing about all these other teams that are meeting with him. I would not be shocked or surprised that this number does get up to that 660 range.
100%.
But to start at that place, like I remember when I guess even before last season began, people were looking at Juan Soto and going, oh, yeah, he's going to hit free agency. Maybe he could be a $500 million man.
It always starts out that way.
That was where we were.
It was the same conversation with Shohei Ohtani. It was the exact same thing. We thought, oh, yeah, $500 million is what we're looking at, and then, maybe tack on, maybe get up to 600, and then what do we know?
$700 million came down the line, right? And, obviously Soto then went on to have a incredible season in his own right. And, had Aaron Judge not been so crazy or Bobby Witt Jr., that could have been your MVP right there. So, that's inevitably going to raise the price just a little bit more. Does great in the postseason as well. So, that's just adding on more to the resume. But, to get to this place now where it's looking like 660 is where they're starting. I mean, the question then becomes, well, where the fuck are we going to end up? And is this too much money to be giving one guy who doesn't do pitching and hitting? He just does one.
Well, first of all, I mean, if 660 is where we're starting, and we were thinking, he could get to 700 is almost a guarantee at this point.
It should be a lock, right? What's $40 more million?
Exactly. Well, exactly. Well, why not 750? Why not $800 million? Like, this guy's 26 years old is what we're talking about, right? So if you commit it to 16 years, you can still get that AAV nice and low. Nice and low for Juan Soto. It's going to be one of the highest in all of baseball. But still, like, $800 million for 16 years, right? Now that's 50 a year. Like, that's what a team is going to have to commit now to get Juan Soto.
That's fucking crazy, though.
That's crazy. You're going to make this guy almost a billionaire.
Yeah.
Now with that being said, right? If it's going to be 800, 750, like, we're talking that much amount of money, what teams are going to be willing to do that? The Mets are. And that's a big strength for the Mets. With the New York Yankees, they've got a lot more holes to fill other than just a Juan Soto coming back to the Bronx. So they have to go get, a new bullpen. They got to go get some corner outfield. They got to go get, a second baseman. They got some stuff they got to fill.
Well, they do. But I also want to be clear, too. Like, the Mets, they have the most free agents coming off the book. So they also have a bunch of shit to fill. However, I do think that Steve Cohen, regardless if you get Juan Soto or you don't get Juan Soto, he's still going to be bringing people in.
Exactly.
Like, if the number's 700, 800, a fucking $1 billion, he'll still try to re-sign Pete Alonso after that and try to do, X, Y, Z. Whether or not the New York Yankees would be capable of still doing stuff after giving Juan Soto this mega deal, I mean, time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell.
It's tough to say.
It's crazy to say that I think that Steve Cohen is richer than the New York Yankees.
That's not crazy to say. That's actual factual.
It's true,
That's
right?
true.
I know, but I never thought I'd think the day where the Mets are richer than the Yankees. But to follow up on your other question there is, like, is it even worth it? Because you have Shohei Ohtani, a two-way player, one of the greatest we've ever seen, winning 3 MVPs, going to win another one. Is it worth it to give this guy who's younger, 4 years younger than Shohei Ohtani when he hit free agency, and putting up very great offensive numbers, better than Shohei Ohtani? You could argue better than an Ohtani over his career.
Sure, yeah.
Right? Is it make sense to give that guy that much money? Is it?
I don't know. I don't know. I think that it's... Juan Soto has kind of found himself in the perfect storm here because not only is he an incredible baseball player in his age and then also the Ohtani deal last year, but they also saw the success of the Ohtani deal last year. It would be, I think it'd be one thing, or we'd be having a bit of a different conversation if, Ohtani signs his big deal and then a month into the season, his leg gets split in half.
Right.
And, now everyone's like, the Dodgers don't go on to win the World Series and he doesn't win the MVP.
Right.
But because it's like, well, we signed, this mega superstar to the $700 million deal, and immediately it was, we have the highest sales. He wins the MVP in a historic fashion. We win the World Series. Like, there's a bit of recency and bias involved in all of this and being like, oh, shit, like, that could be me.
Well, I was just taking a look at the contracts here of, like, the highest paid players, MLB AAVs, and I think it does make sense because you're right. All that other stuff of Ohtani being great last year, him having a good year, we're like, okay, well, we can clearly see that bringing these guys on for big deals is working in the short term. I'm looking right here. He will be the youngest free agent to sign his long-term extension in the MLB in a very long time. Like, at 26 years old, the only guy in the last few years that has signed at 26 years old was Rafael Devers.
Right.
And that's at $31 million per year. But that's different. That wasn't when he was becoming a free agent. They signed him right in the middle of his contract. So he's one of the youngest free agents. And I'm looking at, like, what's a comparable guy to a Juan Soto in the past? Well, maybe Mike Trout, right? At the time, $35 million AAV was, like, one of the highest in all of baseball for $426 million. When you're looking at the last couple of years, some other guys like Aaron Judge's AAV being $40 million. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani $70 million, but that's a makeup of 2 players right there. So for him to get $50 million at 26 years old being so young, maybe it does make a lot of sense to bring
Well,
him on.
here's the thing. Like, sure, the market is pricing him out
Yeah.
to do that. But I don't think that actually answers the question of whether or not it's a good idea, you know?
Right, right, I hear what
Because,
you're
like, you
saying.
look at somebody like a Mike Trout, and, yeah, for a lot of years, like, that guy was fucking great, you know? And you're very happy to have him. But these days, can't stay on the field for the last, like, 3-4 years. It's just
Right.
been injury city. They have never won a playoff game with him. Is that his fault? No.
Yeah, right,
But,
right.
you know what I mean? It's like, that's a lot of money going out the door. Whereas, like, obviously the Ohtani thing immediately comes in, changes the game, wins yourself a ring, wins MVP, you're feeling great. The Juan Soto contract is, you know, it's gonna be hard to be the best contract of all time ever. It's got more of a chance to be the worst contract of all time ever than to be one of the best contracts of all time ever, because, like, the risk that you're taking with it is immense with the amount of money that you're putting in.
Well, what makes a great contract? I feel like what makes a great contract is you feel like you've got your money's worth and then some, right?
Yes,
So,
yeah.
so, you know, is paying $800 million, what's going to make it get your money worth and then some? You probably got to win multiple rings,
MVPs.
multiple MVPs.
Yeah.
You got to be consistently every year. So, yeah, for that to happen for 16 years, probably unlikely.
Yeah.
But what it is you're paying up to get what is known right now to be one of the best players in baseball, and you're okay with the downside because you're willing to take the risk. You're buying your ticket. You're buying your lottery ticket right now.
Sure,
and it's an
I
expensive
mean,
one.
Ultimately, yeah, of course, it's expensive for a lottery ticket, but, you know, let's face it. Like, I do think that for several years to come, barring a serious injury, Juan Soto is going to be incredible. Is he $700-800 million worth of incredible? I mean, again, time will tell about that. But if he does, you know, half of what he's done up until this point, then you'll probably look back at that signing and, you know, look back at it very, very fondly. So, ultimately, like, to see that they're already at that 660 mark, I am very interested now to see how the Yankees respond.
Yeah, me too.
Because if this is accurate, and this is all, like, we're assuming that this is accurate, we're assuming that Carlos isn't, you know, pulling our leg or anything like that. But if they're starting at 660 and you're Hal Steinbrenner and you know that that's where Steve Cohen is beginning, then you need to kind of, it's almost like, you know, when you're going for it on fourth down and it's second down and you got to decide in your head we are going to go for it on fourth down because
How much are we willing to pay?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, if he's starting there, I mean, at minimum, I probably got to be willing to fight this out until $750 million minimum, right? If I want to win, can I go even more than that? Like, you got to kind of make, and maybe that's why Steve Cohen put that offer on the table, like, as much as he did so early on, to kind of, like, you know, get the real players to the table.
Exactly.
You know, if you're just in this, you know, to, like, you know, make headlines, get the fuck out of here. Who's actually serious about this right now?
Yeah.
I'm serious. He was 660.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. When I was thinking about that 660 offer, I'm thinking about guys who are going to immediately fall off the table. Dodgers are probably going to fall off the table at that point. Like, I mean, there's a lot of rumors that, like, they're kind of there, but their priorities isn't to get another superstar player back-to-back years with the same amount of like, they're like, let's look at repairing our pitching staff and getting, you know, Teoscar Hernandez back. And we have the tools. We have all the guys. Why go get Juan Soto again? Let's just, like, go and, like,
Just
fix up our
luxury.
team. It's
Just
a luxury
luxury.
thing, right? So they almost got too many things. So for me, I would think that puts the Dodgers out of the conversation. Obviously, Yankees are going to be in it. And I still think that the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be in it because they've had that $700 million left over from last year, and they're going to continue to be aggressive at the table, and they said they're going all in. I think the Red Sox are still going to go all in. They have a lot of money still saved
Boston's
up.
a big team.
Well,
yeah.
Boston's a big team, big market team. So, you know, I think that those right now are looking like the four players in on Juan Soto. Now, I actually had this article I saw this morning by Ken Rosenthal. This was posted on the, I think, the New York Post or New York Times, and his whole argument was, you know, Juan Soto is going to go to the highest bidder, right? Because if we were talking $800 million, how could you turn that down? But no matter what, it won't be the Toronto Blue Jays because their team's not ready to compete, and that's not what Juan Soto's looking for.
Well,
What's your reaction to that?
You know what? I hear what he's saying, in the sense of, I don't think he's going to go to the Toronto Blue Jays either. Like, seriously,
No,
I don't.
I don't think so either. No.
But, you know, like, if you're saying that, if your whole argument is that he's going to go to the highest bidder, then, you know, you can't outright say that a team with the amount of potential financial flexibility as the Toronto Blue Jays is not going to be in on it. Unless, of course, you're making the argument that they're not going to be willing to spend that amount of money, which I could be also, made to believe. Like, I don't know if, again, I know that Toronto has the money. I don't know if they're going to be willing to spend that much money. I have hope that because of last year's Shohei Ohtani incident, they would be willing to do that, but I don't know. However, I don't think that's the argument that Heyman's making there. It sounds like Heyman's just saying that, well, he's going to go to the highest bidder, but it's not going to be Toronto because they're not very good at baseball, which, could be true.
Yeah, like if it was $750, let's say, and it's between Jays and it's between the Mets, and which one are you going to go with? You're going to go with the Mets, obviously, right? Unless Blue Jays really convinced you with some elaborate presentation.
You got to have Bautista in the building. You got to have Encarnacion in the building.
You're convincing you're getting down to the Dominican
roots.
All
the Dominican boys are there, and they're talking about how we're gonna be the Dominican squad.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only way,
right. So for me, I think there's got to be like a mystery, like $20 million plus buffer that like the Blue Jays got to get over. To then convince. Like, even if the Blue Jays are like a little bit over, maybe it's still not enough to convince Juan Soto because of that other factor. But, I think that's the little disadvantage the Blue Jays got is the fact they're not a right now winning team.
I agree, right? And again, well, maybe this is a positive, maybe this is a negative. It's all dependent on how Juan Soto looks at things, but it is in a new country that, you assumingly have never lived in for an extended period of time before. Do you like that? Do you not like that? I don't know you personally, so tough to say, but that's just another one of those potential obstacles right there. I've always been operating, though, that if the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be in this thing, they lose on a tie. And what I mean by that is that, if they're tied in terms of monetary value and, I guess, like, benefits in the contract, all that shit. Like, if it's a tie between you and the Yankees or you and even the Red Sox, like, literally, like, you lose. You're going to lose to effectively anyone. Yeah, but, like, effectively, there needs to be something else in that contract, whether it be, just something additional that the Mets aren't offering, that the Yankees aren't offering, that the Red Sox aren't offering, that sets you aside from everything else. And then on top of all of that, I guess to Heyman's point there needs to be an argument about being competitive as well, and I do think that you are going to require a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. extension to get Juan Soto signed on this thing. Like I do believe that the Dominican aspect is going to pull at him a little bit, and if he is going to, I hope so, right?
From a Blue Jays standpoint,
if he's going to sign in Toronto, and I get it, like if I was Juan Soto, I would want to know the same thing. Like if I'm going to sign here. And let's just say I'm playing in a different country. Well, the star player's a Canadian boy. We kind of we have the same type of life. We grew up in the same, areas or whatever.
Right.
I would want to know that guy's going to be there long term as well, and we'd be doing this together.
Yeah, that's the whole conversation. I was talking to my dad. I was visiting family over the past weekend, and he's like, he was fully believing, like, if they're going to get him, Juan Soto, they need Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the room. And talking to me like, I will sign this contract once you sign your contract. Like, it has to be that level of convincing. Because if I'm Juan Soto, okay, you have Vladdy for 1 year.
Yeah.
Now I'm stuck here by myself in this foreign country, right? So, like, I need to guarantee that Vladdy will be here if I'm here.
Yeah, agreed, right?
And which is hard. It's a hard thing to manage.
Of course. Because you're talking about, what's going to be over $1 billion probably, like, both of them together, or right around $1 billion maybe, depending on what Guerrero gets paid and where Soto finishes. But, yeah, they're buddies. And that's got to be an element there for Soto. Like, okay, like, this is somebody that I've played Call of Duty with before. I don't want to, sign here forever and then have him, fuck off to the New York Yankees the following year, right? Because might as well just stay with the Yankees then, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You could do that. So, there's absolutely going to be that element. I guess just in conclusion to Heyman's point, I hear what he's saying. I think that the Blue Jays are underdogs in this whole thing. I've never not felt that way.
Yeah.
But, if your whole argument is, well, he's going to go to the highest bidder, then you can't just outright say that they're not going to be that guy.
No, for me, it felt like there was a little bit of not complete bias, but like, why isn't the Boston Red Sox so in this and the Jays aren't?
Right?
They're two teams that have a lot of talent but aren't winning a lot of games, so you can't really just outright name one team.
To the Boston Red Sox credit, I feel like we're not and maybe this is because, we are more worried about what we're doing right now with the Toronto Blue Jays. But, like, I do think that people are sleeping on the possibility that he goes to the Boston Red Sox.
I agree.
And they've always been, like, they've been a really good and historic team for a long period of time. And it feels like in the last couple years, they just kind of been, like, staying in the same spot.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of like leveling, like kind of treading water and, not really going above and beyond, not falling off either. Like, they're always there. But if they bring in somebody like a Juan Soto, I was listening to, I think it was Ben Nicholson-Smith tweet or talk about this, and he was just talking about how it's like he does believe like that could be an up and coming team, and you bring in somebody like a Juan Soto, and why like you are kind of taking over for the New York Yankees in that regard, and I can totally see that.
Look at that lineup. It'd be Juan Soto, Devers, Jarren Duran.
Yeah.
Like that. Those are three.
That's a
stars
three-headed
right
monster, and that's really all you need. Like you're talking about three potential all-stars there, maybe some MVPs in that fucking. In that top three, and then after that, like make it whatever you want.
Yeah, you still got Yoshida.
Sure,
Masataka Yoshida.
Like re-sign O'Neill if you really want to as well.
Why not,
I mean, like
right?
have that guy hitting fourth and just smacking bombs at will.
Right. And they had Raffaello, I think, was a Rookie of the Year candidate. So, they got a good team. The one thing that they do need for sure is, and I've been saying this, screaming, at the top of the mountains, like, go get some pitching. It's great, bringing all these big sluggers and all these great guys, good hitters, have a great lineup. But my God, guys, like, how do you not see you need pitching? Or maybe they do and they just can't get them for whatever effing reason. You know what I mean? So we'll see what they do. They're definitely, and then I definitely wouldn't count them out. I'd say them and the Jays have the same chance, in probability. To get
they're probably around the same. Maybe I'd even put them a little bit higher than Toronto, just
probably
because if you think about it, it's like, well, they have their superstar extended.
That's right,
and they won more games. And also you could argue too. Actually, this isn't even an argument. They are a more historic franchise.
Oh yeah, they're more historic.
That's just a fact. So I mean, they certainly have a lot of things going for them. I think that Toronto does as well, but. I think that their argument might be a little bit more complete than what the Toronto Blue Jays can offer, and that is why it was always going to be this way. You're going to have to offer more money or something else if you're the Jays.
So right now, if you were to make a prediction on who he's going to go to,
well, right now, I guess the power rankings for where he is there's 4 teams in it. I don't know. I'm not sure where the Phillies are at right now. I think that they had a meeting, but I didn't hear much about it.
I didn't hear too much.
But the power rankings for me are as follows, which is it probably goes New York Mets 1, New York Yankees 2, Boston 3, and then Toronto 4.
That's where I'm at.
That's kind of where I have things right now. And then maybe a pretty steep fall off. And then somewhere in there as well, you got the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't know where they're landing right now,
Dude,
but they're in the mix.
They got bigger, fish to fry right now than getting a $800 million. Dude, what? That would be the biggest shocker in MLB free agent recent history. If the Rays, with no home, they're playing at, I think they're playing at the Yankees spring training facility.
It's something like
in Tampa
that,
Bay.
yeah.
And they're homeless. They go off and they pull off a Juan Soto deal.
That's that's actually really embarrassing. Not just for the Tampa Bay Rays, but for MLB in general.
That's bad for. Do you think that's bad for baseball?
Yeah, that's fucking bad for baseball, man. You got. It's not only that you just have one team that doesn't have a home right now.
Yeah, and
you got two separate squads that literally do not have a home ballpark.
No.
One of them doesn't even have a fucking name.
They don't have a city association.
This is at some point you got to step in MLB and be like, all right, we're gonna do something about this.
Yeah,
this is embarrassing.
That's
guys.
why it's you either got to force them to sell the team or relocate or something. I'm talking about the A's right now, or even the fucking Rays as well, man. Dude, they're called the Tampa Bay Rays, and they played in St. Petersburg.
Yeah,
no,
it makes no sense.
You're not even close to Tampa. Well, you are a little bit, but you're an hour away. What the hell is going on here? But now they're actually for the first time going to finally play in Tampa Bay this year.
Well, and to the I guess the stadium point and stuff like that. That's another thing too. I get that this is a time of need and whatever, and this is all we got. But you got to step in and do something. I remember years ago, watching football, and I always thought that this was embarrassing as fuck. Like, they'd have the field, and the field that they'd be playing on would sometimes still be like a baseball field.
Yeah, wait,
you know?
what team was that? Was that the
That
Oakland?
was like
No.
I don't remember, man. But like years ago, like this would happen like occasionally, where
I
it's like
that.
and I'm like, this is embarrassing, and now like they've stopped doing that. I haven't seen them do that in many years now, actually, many years. But like I was like, this isn't good. Like, you're the NFL, like you know, put down some goddamn grass for an afternoon. You know, same thing goes for the MLB right now. It's like you're the Major League Baseball association. It's like, figure it out, guys. Figure it the fuck out here.
Yeah, no, like they've been shafting like Oakland Athletic fans for a minute, and I mean the Rays don't even have any fans, so let's see what they can do. Let's transition a little bit right now, guys. Before we do, actually, let's give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this podcast, everybody. It is Betway, guys. Hit your picks and knock it out of the park with Betway. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the details section to join the action. Available in Ontario only. Must be 19 years or older to participate. Now, please play responsibly. We've got the Cowboys game tonight. Oh, my God. Guess who the favorite is to win this one? Cowboys, Houston, Texans.
I know who the favorite's going to be. It's a wild one, though, because both teams are kind of playing like garbage right now. Granted, one team is playing significantly more garbage than the other team. I'm talking about the Cowboys.
Yeah.
They are a disaster franchise.
Man.
Would not be surprised at all, everyone, if they end up with a top 5 pick, honestly, in next year's draft, just with everything. Like, everything is going
They
wrong.
don't have their starting quarterback, Dak Prescott.
And even when they did, and this is the thing, that's how you know that there's a cancer in that organization, because Jerry Jones came out, the owner, and he talked about that. He's like, because somebody was talking about like how Dak got injured and everything like that, and he was saying it's like, well, we weren't even winning with Dak, like, so he's like, he doesn't even care that like he was getting injured. It just goes to show like there's such a deep disconnect there. They're awful. Even if they were fully healthy, I would still say that they're going to lose this football game.
Yeah, and this one might be kind of a weird one, right? Because you like on the other side of things, you got the Texans that are like absolutely struggling right now, but they're favorited right now. Money line is 1.28. for the Texans, and then the Cowboys at 375. We have a Cowboys fan in our group chat that always takes the opponent's spread, and he goes to the alternate spread. If you really wanted to, the spread is -7.5 for the Texans, and you double your money. But it's tough because the Texans are dookie poo right now.
I just, I truly believe in like the level of shit that's going on right now in Dallas. Like, they are going to lose this football game, and I think that there's a better chance than not that it's a complete wash and just a horrendous blowout. I would be very surprised if Cooper Rush and the boys come out and start, making it even close.
Not even close, man. And they're actually playing at AT&T Stadium today. So I really hope that we end the year and we can have this conversation where Jake Paul has more wins in AT&T Stadium than the Dallas Cowboys. Wouldn't that just be a slap in the face?
That would definitely be something, guys. So let us know who you're riding with down below.
All right. We got an article here. We brought it up in the beginning here. Bleacher Report. This one is called 9 MLB free agents with the highest bust potential. And this one was interesting because I know there's a couple of guys on this list that you were talking to me off camera that you really like this offseason. It's like a sneaky signing. But Bleacher Report thinks they're going to bust. Let's start off with one of them. That one guy is Jack Flaherty. He goes over to the LA Dodgers. He had some good starts in postseason, some not so good. But he wins a ring. He had a pretty good season overall in the regular season. But they're saying he's going to bust at 29 years old.
Well, let me correct you a little bit here. Jack Flaherty, no longer a sneaky signing. The book is out. The word is out here. You're going to have to pay up at least a relatively decent amount to get this guy.
Yeah, like they're projecting 3 years, $60 million.
That's a Chris Bassett contract right there.
That's pretty decent.
Which is like that's a good deal. And honestly,
that's a going rate for like a solid rotational guy.
And I think like for me, for that price point of $60 million 3 years, I'm still all in. I'm still in.
100%.
I still think that this would be good. I get what they're saying. And effectively, like, they're looking at what he did from 2020 to 2023 and just talking about how, that wasn't great baseball that he played. It was very mediocre baseball. In fact, you could argue even bad baseball. But this past year, he was great. And we're talking about somebody that's 29 years old, that when he first came up was, heralded as being the next ace in MLB.
Yeah.
Then there's a couple injuries, there's a couple bad performances. You have that stretch of a few years where it's not going well, and he gets over to Detroit, and things change.
Yeah,
and I guess for me, like, I'm trying to look at the positive side of things and going, okay, I saw the guy that used to be heralded as one of the next best aces in MLB this past year. That's who I saw. That's who was on the mound for 2024.
Yeah.
And he was great. And I think that at $60 million 3 years, I know that they're saying that there's a bust potential, and I hear what they're saying, but I'd be willing to take the risk at that price.
No, me too, because you're going to get him in the prime of his career. And for me, the real big difference is you're in St. Louis your entire career. You get traded to Baltimore in your final year, and then you sign a 1-year prove-it deal, and you proved it. Right, and you with a whole new organization, so they've got new philosophy, they got new pitching coaches, staff. So you probably learned something there. Obviously, you picked something up, right? And then I could probably just attest like the ending of the year and the postseason too. Well, I'm a guy who's like never pitched this deep ever into a season, right? Like when he was with the Cardinals in 17 through 23, at least the first half of 23, that wasn't a team that made a lot of deep runs in the postseason, right? And then you go in and you finally get into a team where you're going to go to the World Series. Yeah, like that's going to start to wear on you a bit, and you might struggle. And you're facing the best of the best. Like not a lot of pitchers do very good in the postseason unless you're a Garrett Cole. And that's the thing. He's not going to get paid like a Garrett Cole. He's going to get paid like a middle to top end rotation guy for the next 3 years, and I think it's worth it.
Well, and you look back at the innings that he pitched, from 2020 to 2023, which is what they're saying here. Now, in 2023, he did start a decent amount of games, and he had 144.1 innings. But prior to that, and not that 144 innings is actually a lot. Like, that's like pretty mid in terms
low,
of MLB and a starter in it. But previous to that, he hadn't touched over 100 innings since 2019.
Yeah.
Right? So, you're talking about somebody that definitely hadn't been used to this level of endurance that he had to this past season. So I could definitely agree with you there. Do I see the bust potential? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, of course I do. Sure. There is absolutely a reality where he just stinks it up and, reverts back to that place. Maybe he even just continues to get injured. But I think, honestly, like, for me, I don't vibe with this one on my all bust list.
Yeah, yeah, because like you brought up Chris Bassett, with the exact same offer that is being projected for Jack Flaherty 3 years, $20 million a year, and for Chris Bassett, it was like, well, this is the safest guy. You're going to get. Yes, he's a bit older, so the risk there is that he will age in this contract, but it's super safe because he's been doing it for so long that you're okay with the outcome. So the other side of this is he's only done it for a short amount of time, and he was very, very good. And you're hoping that continues, and that's what's a different risk.
You're buying into the ceiling, right? Or you're buying into the upside with them, which honestly, for somebody that's 29, I would be willing to do. For somebody that is 34, though, like Yusei Kikuchi is, I would not be willing to do, folks. Listen, as Toronto Blue Jays fans, I can tell you firsthand, this is a bust. Unless, of course, he goes to somebody like the Houston Astros, who figured him out immediately. And it just goes to show how horrendous the Toronto Blue Jays pitching staff or coaching is and everything like that. We gas Pete Walker up. I'm sorry, I'm going to go on a Blue Jays tangent here, we gas Pete Walker up all the time. But really, does that guy know what he's doing when Yusei Kikuchi, a start in, figures it all the way out in Houston, and they just go, all right, instead of throwing this, you throw that, and then instead of doing that, you throw this, and then this is what you do in a 2-1 count, and this is what you do in this. They're just so much better and so much far ahead. However, I don't believe that most teams are that capable, and for that reason, Yusei Kikuchi, he's on my all-bust list.
Yeah, no, for me too. I mean, in Toronto, he had a total ERA of 4.48, and they signed him for, here's the thing, they signed him for 3 years, and it was $36 million. Right now, he's getting projected to get another 3 years, but $51 million. And you could compare the numbers that he had in Toronto, 4.48 ERA, to the 3 years he had in Seattle, 4.97. So he dropped it by like 0.5. Is that worth another, 15 extra million dollars on top of his previous year with, going into his age 34, 35, 36 years? For me, no thank you. There's not much time left, and his best year he had was with Toronto in 2023. But I don't know. For me, Yusei Kikuchi's wild card. He's a bust for me. One guy that they're all saying is a bust that had a phenomenal year was Jerickson Profar. he signed a 1-year contract. He was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But there's the thing. People are going to want to pay him a little bit more than just $1 million this year. And people are saying maybe this is like a one-hit wonder. He's going to be 32 next season. And he's not going to repeat a 839 OPS that he's never done in his past. What do you think?
and I do hear them with this. I really, really do.
Yeah.
It does feel like one of those things that, like a bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah.
And I guess this one for me really does. It depends on the contract. It depends on the contract because if you're walking into a Jerks and Profar contract and you're convincing yourself that, you're going to get all-star Jerks and Profar every single year, then I think you're doing yourself a disservice, and I would be pretty shocked if that's the result that comes out here.
Right.
If you have it built into that deal with the money that you pay him and the years that you have him on, that it is more of a complimentary piece, like you'll be happy if you get like a low to mid 700 OPS, that's you'll feel good about that.
Yeah.
But it's not a bust anymore. That's kind of the way that I look at Jerks and Profar. I would not be comfortable though signing him with the goal or the ambition that he's going to do what he did last year again. If he does, all the credit to him. I wouldn't want to buy in on that, though.
No, it's 1 year, and the difference between Jack Flaherty and this guy is, he's been around for 11 years, since 2012. He didn't play for 2 years, actually. I didn't know that. But or 3 years. No, 2 years, excuse me. But that's a long time of a guy proving to be not so good and then breaks out of nowhere. And it's not like, the argument with a Jack Flaherty was, he went to a new team, he found out some new stuff, and he figured it out. Profar's played with the Padres before.
Yeah.
He played with the Padres for 3 seasons before this. So, it's not like this came, because he was on a new team and had a whole new regime or had a whole new approach to play. I don't know where the hell this came from. So for me, I'd probably be comfortable with 1 year, maybe a club option for 5 to 10, off the bench utility kind of guy, 5 to 10 per year. I mean,
yeah,
that's probably it. I'm not signing him any more than that, man.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Like you look at what he did this past year, and just like everything. Literally everything is well above the the career averages that he set for himself. Like the on base is incredible. He's getting on base at 38% of the time, which is 50 points higher than his career average.
Wow.
Like the batting average was great, batting .280. I don't know. I don't know what happened. Is this one of those situations where like you kind of get that late bloomer and they can kind of pop off in their 30s? We've seen it before. It does happen.
Right.
Am I willing to pay a lot of money for it? No, I'm not.
No, that's just funny. I'm seeing here he led the league in hit by pitches last year. Maybe he stood closer to the plate. I don't know. That really doesn't make much sense to me. Then there's some other guys on this list that I completely agree are bust with, like Luis Severino. Like, that guy's been shaky his whole career.
I didn't even think that he had, like, broken out, really.
No, like, this guy's not even, like, a player, right? Like, that, like, is consistent at all. So, of course, it's bust-worthy. Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander on this list, like, obviously they're old.
Wow, they're probably cooked at this point,
Yeah,
Like, again, I'm genuinely kind of surprised that they're still playing.
Me too.
Like
Retire.
if I'm somebody like a Verlander or a Scherzer, like you got to think your body is feeling it. You've both dealt with several injuries in the past couple of years that have set you back. You've both accomplished all you need to accomplish at this level. If you really are just gunning for one more payday, then all right, all the credit to you. But no one is going to look badly on you for hanging it up at this point. And let's be completely honest here, like. Are you going to put up another Cy Young level performance at age, whatever you are, 42?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Man.
I don't think that's going to happen. So I think that the outcome of you, playing like shit is a lot higher than the alternative. Maybe I'm doing a different disservice, though, to two potential Hall of Famers.
Yeah, definitely Hall of Fame worthy for sure. I actually was looking at Verlander's Baseball Reference. Oh my God! You always know in the back of your mind, you're like, man, like that guy had a great career, and then you look at Baseball Reference, you're like, I'm seeing a lot of bold and italicized numbers all over the page.
Yeah,
he led the league and led the MLB in a lot of categories for many, many times. A lot of bold Cy Youngs, 3-time Cy Young Award winner Justin Verlander. But yeah, I mean, dude, you pitched, you got back from injury halfway through the year, 17 starts, 5.48 ERA. I'm not signing Justin Verlander at this point,
Nah,
guys.
I don't know.
I'm not, and we're trying to be competitive. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that at all.
Well, for me, like I look at I got Max Scherzer's baseball in a reference page right here, and it's actually really, really crystal clear like what the issue for me would be about him. He had a 3.95 ERA last year, which is solid.
That's solid.
But it was 43 innings. Yeah. And that's because he was hurt for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And he's 39 right now.
Yeah.
And actually, excuse me, he's 40. He had already turned 40.
Oh,
so
wow.
I don't know, man. Like the health, it's just like that for me would be a big issue and something that I wouldn't want to commit like a high average annual value to, even if it was like just for a 1 year.
Right.
If I could have him on my team for $5 million, sign me up. But he's not going to cost $5 million. He's probably going to want closer to $25 million because his name is Max Scherzer.
Yeah. And he actually had a decent, like an okay sample size of a year. Where
that's the thing. Like it was fine. You know what I mean? Like if you did that over the course of 170 innings and you gave me a 3.95 ERA, all right. You know that you are a valuable part of this rotation.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to give me 170 innings though.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I don't know if you can give me that amount of workload at this point. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm a hater. But that's why I wouldn't want my team to sign him.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if anyone's going to get a contract, it should probably be Max Scherzer. Justin Verlander, though, my man, love you. You know, you're a big part of my childhood growing up, watching you pitch in Detroit. But it's time to move on.
Could be cooked. Could be cooked at this point. And that's okay.
That's
like,
okay.
It's
you
okay
did it,
to
dude.
be cooked, right?
You did it. You did it. You got to hang it up, though, dude. I'm sorry. Last one on this list, which is like, I read this. Like I get what they're coming from, but I'd still be willing to pay for this guy anyways. Is Anthony Santander's on this?
I did want to talk about Santander. I've heard a lot about people being concerned about him and about what he's going to do in the future. Because this is really one of those ones where like you don't want to get caught up paying for what he's already done and then not get the actual return when the time comes. And you do look at his career. And it's been solid. He's got a 776 career OPS over the course of 8 seasons, all of those years in Baltimore. You can kind of take a look at this and say to yourself, well, he's been getting increasingly better and better and better as the time goes on, right? You know, especially in the last like 4 years. It's like every single season we're kind of slowly getting up there. But is he a lock for 44 home runs every year? I don't think so. I mean, like that's you look at that. You look at the power, and I don't want to say that this came out of nowhere because he's always been around that 30 home run mark and been very very good at that. But 44 home runs is probably not what you can expect from him every year.
And that's what he's going to get kind of paid to be doing. And if he doesn't hit that, then he looks, like a 240 hitter. If he doesn't hit 44 home runs, the slugging goes down. The on base is not overly impressive. He had an on base of 308 last year.
Exactly.
So that's why he's a home run hitter. If he's not hitting home runs, which this is bread and butter, then he's worth virtually nothing.
No, I'll tell you right now, like what's going to get him paid is that 506 slugging.
That's it.
If you have a slugging over 500, you get paid in MLB. That's just the way that it is because that means that you're getting extra base hits, you're getting home runs. The question is it going to stay up there? Because if it dips 40, 50 points, which is where it's been majority of his career, then immediately the $25 million a year that you're paying for this guy is looking pretty bad at that point. Because then you're just going to be looking at a guy who's, like you said, 240 hitter, 770 OPS. It's okay. It's not bad.
No.
It's just like for the price that you're paying, you would have wanted more.
Yeah, and if he's not hitting home runs, then he's probably striking out a lot. He's probably that batting average probably going a bit lower. And then you're going to have the result of that is going to have pitchers avoiding him. And he's going to, I'm hoping he doesn't do this, but, he might chase more. And then it starts to snowball if you're not hitting home runs. If you're hitting home runs, then pitchers are going to, or excuse me, it's the other way around. If you're not hitting home runs, they're going to attack you. And they're like, okay, well, I'm going to attack this guy, and he's not going to get more walks. But if you are hitting home runs, they're going to avoid you. So he's got to hit home runs. Yes, that's a long ball, but, that could swing. There's been hitters like that in the past where, they sign a big deal, they hit home runs, and then they don't do it, and they're crap.
That's the thing. I get a lot of, maybe this is a bad comparison, but a Jorge Soler type of vibe here.
I just looked him up as a comparison.
But the thing is, I know that Jorge Soler has had more years in his past of being upwards of the 40 home run mark, Like, he's done that several times.
Like, he did it. Well, here's crazy. Like, in 2019, before 2019 where he hit 48 home runs, his highest was 12. It came out of effing nowhere. And then he followed it up with 2020 doesn't count because he only had 8 home runs that year. 27, then it was 13. I think he was hurt. Yeah, he was hurt that year. Then he had 36 and 21. So, like, now he's been that home run kind of guy.
Right.
But still, like, shaky. Like, you sign a guy for who's hit 48 home runs in the past, you only get 21. That's a big loss.
That is a big loss, right? Like, where's the other 27 home runs or whatever it works out to be, right? Like, you want that. So, no, I get where they're coming from with Santander. I still think that he's a valuable piece to add to that lineup. And if you do get this upside, you're laughing. But, as somebody who has watched the decline of George Springer over, the case of several years on the Toronto Blue Jays, like, signing an aging outfielder who is, most of his value is based in power is frightening because there's obviously many examples of times where that does not work out and you end up fitting the bill for somebody who can't hit for shit.
Yeah, and I guess to George's credit too, at the time he was a little bit of a better overall hitter too. Like he had the contact and the batting average. And that's why Santander is only getting 3 years. Because he's missed another element of the game. But we'll see what he gets. Again, I'd still be willing to take the risk because again, we're Toronto Blue Jay fans. We have no power.
Well,
I want the power.
And in any team, like I still think he's a valuable player. Like let's say I got an article up here as well, like talking about if the Yankees lose out on Juan Soto, well, what's their alternative? And they're looking at a Teoscar Hernandez, and I mean, like I think that would be a great other alternative.
Absolutely.
However, and Anthony Santander, like you put that guy in Yankee Stadium, and it's like, oh, okay, like
great.
And
he's a switch hitter now.
He's a switch hitter, dude.
Yeah.
He's a switch hitter. So
great.
Whatever you feel more comfortable with, sending it over that left field wall, like
right field wall,
excuse me, like go ahead, like make it happen. So, like I think it would work really good for the Yankees if they could get him, and I think he is still valuable for some teams, but. I hear where they're coming from in the sense that it could look like a bad contract in a couple of years.
No, I'm with that. I'm with you on that. Last thing before we sign off here, real quick shout out to Greta Bar, everybody. Go check it out. Downtown Toronto. They got over 50 arcade games and life-size arcade games, like huge. Take up the entire wall. So lots of fun, interactive stuff there. They got bar food. There are dance floor turns to a club at night. So go check it out, guys. Greta Bar, King Street West, Toronto. Reds. They're openly discussing trade talks involving Jonathan India. Now, this isn't the first time that we've heard a Jonathan India trade. I think we've probably heard this for the last couple of years that they were willing to ship off a Jonathan India. But right now they're talking about it with the Kansas City Royals, interestingly enough, who they're looking at getting someone like Brady Singer. Now, this is according to Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic. So Royals looking for maybe a new second baseman, where the Reds are looking for a pitcher. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this trade?
It's felt like for a couple of years now, they've felt like they want to get rid of Jonathan India, which I've never really understood, just because he's a good baseball player. Not the best baseball player ever. Not kind of living up to the Rookie of the Year hype that he got when he won Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
But again, since then, he's been good. Like you're talking about somebody that's good.
Yeah, maybe that's the whole thing is they're trying. I had no way to predict this, but were they trying to sell high on him because they're like, no, we never saw this coming.
Right.
Let's sell him high because we knew the fall was coming. I mean, from year to year, he had a 4.1 WAR in his rookie year.
Yeah.
Then he had a negative WAR. Negative 0.1 the following year. Then it's been 1.4, 1.7. So it's I'm not super impressed.
No, great. Just again,
a guy.
Yeah, a solid baseball player, and you look at the slash line there. It's got a 750 OPS. Batting 248. Again, I put him in my lineup, and I'm like, all right,
set and forget.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Literally a set and forget. You can kind of have him batting fifth, maybe sixth.
Yeah.
Depending on where what your caliber of team looks like. Honestly, on the Toronto Blue Jays, this guy's batting pretty high with his 357 on base percentage that he has.
Yeah.
But I'd be happy with this player in the lineup.
Right.
It's just felt like from their standpoint, they wanted to get rid of him for years, and I guess if you because of that reason alone, I'm gonna say all right, make the trade happen. At this point, it's if feel like if I'm Jonathan India, it's like, fuck, like just
Nobody
do
wants
it
me here.
already, you know?
Yeah,
Like get rid of me. I know you guys don't want me here, or not really want me here, so make it happen.
And honestly, like, I think for the Reds' standpoint, this trade makes a ton of sense. I mean, you got like 2 years remaining on Jonathan India, and they want Brady Singer, who, he broke out a little bit last year. I mean, the prior year in 2022, he had a 3.23 ERA. This last year, he had a 3.71. If I'm the Reds, give me a nice quality starting pitcher for the same amount of years that would have a Jonathan India. Absolutely. But for the Kansas City Royals, I think this doesn't make any effing sense because they literally have a guy named Michael Massey playing second base who did very similar stuff. Batting average of 259, OPS of 743. Young guy. He's going to be turning 27 with the same amount of WAR. Doesn't really make sense for me. I think it's more of a Reds trying to get some assets in their own end versus the Kansas City Royals actually doing anything about this. I don't think they're going to do this trade.
No, I hear you, dude. I do. I certainly hear where you're coming from on that standpoint. I was just thinking about like as you were talking, like rookie of the year and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna get the awards and everything announced.
Throughout this entire week.
Paul Skeens or Jackson Merrill?
Paul Skeens.
Skeens. Yeah.
I mean, this guy's got Cy Young votes. Look, Jackson Merrill. We haven't seen a rookie, like a position player rookie like Jackson Merrill in years, and it's just unfortunate for him that you had somebody like, Paul Skeens come up and be overtly dominant. I think he is the slight favorite to win it.
I'm taking a look at that right now, actually. Yeah, like there is like, shout out to Betway, everybody, but like the slight favorite for Paul Skeens here. Merrill's right there, though, so it looks like it really could go either way.
Yeah.
Tight race.
Yeah, it is tight race. Clear number 1, number 2 right there. And then real quickly, I guess now we're on this. Let's talk about the American League. I mean, looks like it's Colton Cowser. He's going to be winning it as well.
Really? Because all the statistics I have here is Luis Heel as negative
really?
230 as the heavy favorite.
That's crazy. Yeah, but I'm reading something that's like, clearly, Colton Cowser will win it, and then the runners-up will be the 2 Yankee guys.
Interesting.
Maybe. Oh, so that could be a close one then.
Yeah, because I got the like the website covers here. Shout out to them, but they take like all of the different odds. So I got like a bunch of different, I guess like betting sites or whatnot that are all like lined up here,
right?
And they're all around that 230, 240 mark for Luis Heel. I don't know.
I mean, I honestly like Luis Heel better than I like Colton Cowser. Colton Cowser had more time, and he was good. But not like overtly good. Heel pitching the World Series, and he did very good, and he's very dependable. So I am on Heel, but we'll see what happens. And then obviously I think every other award's pretty determined. MVP is going to be Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. Cy Young, big shout out to Emmanuel Clase for getting a Cy Young vote, by the way. That was top 3 finalists for a Cy Young. That was dope. But it's going to be Turek Skubal for sure.
Yeah, of course.
And then you've got on the National League side of things like Chris Sale, and also big shout out to Paul Skeens being a Cy Young finalist, but feels like it's going to be Chris Sale.
It should be Chris Sale there. I think honestly all the other awards, other than that one Rookie of the Year for National League, is pretty much locked in. That's like the closest one where I can see an argument for both sides.
Right.
However, I also agree Paul Skeens should be it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I love this is a little shout out for the American League Manager of the Year award. All 3 are in the AL Central because Manager of the Year, I always think it's funny for every sport. It's no one expected you to do good with your roster, but you did good.
Yeah.
And it's like, you got the Royals, you got the the Tigers, and then the Cleveland Guardians, which is all the same story.
I think it should be the Tigers, man.
I do think it should be. AJ Hinch deserves it.
Yeah, I think it should be the Tigers just from the standpoint alone that anyone in your position in August throws in the towel, calls it a day.
Yeah.
The fact that you had, I don't know what you did, but clearly there was a level of motivation that you instilled in your boys to get them to keep rallying.
Absolutely.
That's like that alone, I think, warrants you the award.
Absolutely. And then on the NL side of things, to wrap this up, Padres, Mets, Brewers.
Right.
Again, like all these like teams that no one really expected, but then got it. No one ever gives it to the guys who win the World Series. Unless it was an unexpected team that wins a World Series.
Yeah. It's like effectively you're out of the race if you have like a high payroll in this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, you're supposed to have a good team.
Yeah.
I agree, but also disagree with that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just think like Coach of the Year, Manager of the Year awards, all that shit. It's like, I think that we got to dive a bit deeper than what we normally do, which is what your point is. It just kind of goes to the team that you were supposed to be bad, but you were good.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's the coach.
Yeah, but really, like, you didn't win. You didn't win it all. So, but then again, then it would just be like, okay, whoever wins the World Series, whoever goes to the World Series on each
Yeah.
each win it. So I get it. You probably had the most sway in the roster configuration.
That's kind of the idea,
Yeah,
I think what they're trying to go with there.
Which I get it. But guys, that is the today's podcast for Bad for Baseball. Let us know all your thoughts on our YouTube channel in the comments down below about the whole Juan Soto sweepstakes and everything like that. Also, all these 9 potential busts. Is there anybody else that wasn't mentioned in this podcast that is also potential bust? Let us know your thoughts down below, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. Hit the like, smash the subscribe button, and we will catch you in the next one.
Cheers.